We prayed to the Lord and he answered. But what he answered wasn't what we're expecting. And we were reminded that often God answers doesn't always look like our prayers. So, we're excited to share with you exactly what he answered. You ready to find out? Stay tuned. Welcome back, people.
Hello, friends.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We're excited to have you.
Yes.
We're excited that you're here as always. We made it back. We made it through another week.
Yeah. You made it through another week.
We did make it to another week. And we give God all the glory because of
Yes.
it. But yeah, we're excited that you're here. Before we get started, as always, we always want to give you guys a reminder about, the podcast, what it stands for, what's it about. So this is Testimony and Blessings. And the whole purpose of the podcast is to encourage you as believers of Christ or unbelievers, that whatever you're going through, that, you can be brought out of it. Our testimonies and the people that we hope to bring on to share their testimony, and hoping that their testimony and our testimonies fit building for you and your walk with Christ. And we hope that they are a blessing to you and bring you closer to him as far as understanding him, understanding how he works, the things that he does, his love, and most importantly, his love and his compassion and mercy for us. And we're a product of great things that he's been doing in our lives. And so that's why we're here.
Yeah.
We just want to share what he's been doing, and we're excited. So again, welcome. This is my beautiful wife, Sinise. I realize it's been a minute since I introduced my beautiful wife.
Hey, y'all.
That's
Should
my
I
baby.
should I
This is
introduce you as well?
Nah, I'm okay. This is my other half. It's my other half. But yeah, we're having a good day today.
Yes,
We're
we
having
are.
a good day today, and we're excited to do this. So, yeah, I think we left off our last episode on literally losing everything.
Yeah.
So it's been a fun journey. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and follow us. And as always, we encourage you to share with someone that this might benefit them in any way. And so share it with them so they can get a word of encouragement. And but yeah, so if you haven't, go back and watch the last episode and the other ones. But we left off on literally God telling us that he was gonna strip us of everything until we completely depend on him. And spoiler alert, we lost everything.
Pew, pew, pew.
We didn't know what that meant until things started to, happen. And yeah, we lost everything. So after all that happened, again, we went back to kind of starting from scratch and trying to save for the move, trying to save because we wanted to, buy a house when we do move. And yeah, so we started pretty much over, and the fun begun. And we're like, time is moving, and by faith, we just started to do take the necessary step
Yeah.
in order to make that happen, even though we had nothing.
Yeah.
And I remember after losing everything for a long period of time, we would pray, and sometimes we'd just have random conversation with God, because we don't always do
Formal.
the formal prayer kind of thing. Sometimes it's just conversation, and
Amen.
And that's how it's supposed to
He's
be.
our dad.
You know,
That's how it's supposed to
that's
be.
how it's supposed to be. So we got into the practice of just having, random conversation in the middle of the day or whenever it is. And we started doing that. And one of the things that we were focusing on is where will we go?
Yeah. We had questions.
A lot of questions. Like, where would we go? What we're going to do in South Carolina, right? What we're going to do.
Where we're going to live.
Where we're going to live. What jobs were
Yep.
waiting for us there.
How we're
What's
gonna
the
do
purpose. How we're going to take care of our kids. All those questions were just like, just shooting at God.
Yep.
And for a while, we got no answer.
Yep.
Zero answer. And then when he finally decided to speak, it was one phrase.
Yeah.
Every single time, for every prayer, for every question, it was one answer.
Yep. I will show you when you get there.
I will show you when you get there. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with
Now that's
scripture.
crazy. For me, that's crazy. Because I like to know where I'm going. I have to mentally prepare myself
Yep.
for what's next. So it was a challenge for me to just be like, oh, okay, I guess we'll know when we get there.
Yeah. It was definitely tough. It was definitely tough. And we found ourselves like, what? What does that
Yeah.
even mean?
Yeah.
I'll show you when we get there. How are we supposed to get there not knowing where we're going and what we're supposed to do? Like,
Yeah.
and it was tough. So, all this time, at this point, our parents still have no idea
Nope.
that we have decided to move because God told us to move. And I remember it was it? I think it was Super Bowl Sunday. The first time I talked to my dad, it was Super
Yes, it
Bowl
was.
Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous. And I remember watching the game, and my dad is not really into sport, but sometimes he'll sit in front of the TV and just watch whatever's on. And I remember it was like halftime, and he was alone in the living room upstairs. And I was like, you know what? This is the perfect opportunity. Perfect opportunity to talk to him.
No, but you want to tell him how you struggled with the idea of having that conversation with him?
Yeah, actually, that was the second time. I take that back. That was the second time, because the first time was with him and my mom.
Yeah. Yep.
Was with him and my mom.
And you struggled with that.
I
You
really
were
did.
anxious.
I really did, because I already knew how the conversation was gonna go, and to be fair, I understood on their side how they would see it, because we've seen how our kids have grown so close, like the love between my dad and these girls and my mom, unmatched,
Yeah.
especially my dad.
Yep.
So I knew, telling them that we were moving away and
Yeah.
taking their grandchildren
Yeah.
away from them, and they will miss out on everything. I already knew what the challenge was going to be and how it was going to go. Mm-hmm. But I was very, very anxious. So I remember. So the first time I told them, I went in the room and they were together, and I was like, I need to talk to y'all. I need to talk to y'all, and this isn't easy, but we need to have a real conversation. And they, and they gave me all their attention, and I just started. I just started from how everything, started, and I was like, because me and my dad, we always have this conversation. I always tell him, I'm not always gonna stay in Connecticut. I don't want to stay in Connecticut. But at the time when we were having this conversation, Texas was where
We wanted to go.
We wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I always say to him, if you're doing anything, trying to buy a house, whatever, don't count us in,
Yeah.
because we're not staying. So when I told them, I said, when I sat with them, I said, the Lord has told us to move. And he automatically was like, "So you're moving to Texas?" I was like, "No, apparently not." You know, because
Yeah.
this wasn't my choice. And then I was like, "The Lord told us to move." He was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "That's exactly how it sounds. The Lord, the Lord told us to move." And he was like, "How?" So I, told him, I felt convicted, got a revelation and all that stuff, and been praying about it. Said no the first time, and it came back again. And this time, we don't want to say no to the Lord. We want to
Right.
be obedient and go ahead and go wherever the Lord wants to take us. And he was like, and then he started to pour out questions, just like we were asking the Lord questions.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny because the parallel of that was almost the same question we're asking God, he was asking me. He was like, "Okay, so what's the plan?" I'm like, "I don't have a plan yet." He was like, "Okay, so where are you gonna live?" I'm like, "I don't know." Yeah, I should have seen my
I'm
dad's
just
face.
glad I wasn't in
You
that
guys
room.
should have seen my dad's face. He was like, "Did you find a job? Or you transferring or something?" I'm like, "No, there's no job. I don't know what's there." Then he took a long pause and he goes, "You do realize you have two children,
And
a
a wife.
wife, and then your mother-in-law who's gonna go with you guys because wherever we go, that's where she goes."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm very well aware of the situation. And it was like, "What are you doing? As a dad, as a leader of the family, that's not something you should take lightly." I'm like, "You think I'm taking this lightly?
Right.
That I want to put my family in a place, where we literally don't know what we're gonna do? You
Right.
think I want to do that?" I was like, "That's not my decision because I would have." I'm like, "I've never spoken about South Carolina a day of my life. I knew the state existed.
Yeah.
Never talked about it." And I said to him, I said, my choice of, place to move. If I was moving, it would have been Texas. And then, and I was like, "Well, unfortunately, that's not where the Lord told us to go." So I told them. My mom stayed quiet the entire time. And that's my mom for you. And then after a while, the first thing she said, "Are you sure that was God?" I was like, I'm pretty sure.
Yikes.
That was the Lord. And she said, "Make sure you're not making a decision because a pastor or someone told you to move." I'm like, "First of all,
We don't talk to nobody
we
down here.
literally we're
We didn't know anybody
we
down
were
here.
literally part of the community online, so
Yeah.
we had no contact with anybody from the
Anybody.
church."
Nope.
I was like, "Ma, I just feel convicted. That's literally all it is, and I understand why it's a lot, and you may not understand, but this is where we are." And he was like, "When are you moving?" I was like, I don't know. We're planning to move in the summer, and at the time we knew that our cousin was getting married in July, so we're like, we're trying to move after the wedding because we don't want to go and then come back because we have no money. So I'm like, we're planning to move in July, so that's the plan for now after the wedding, and
Yeah.
it just went quiet because they didn't understand. And my dad was like, and I remember, and then we kind of like, and I kind of took him in the Bible as a reference.
Yeah.
Now, my dad, I was born and raised in the same church from Haiti to here until we left, which was what, in 2021?
Yeah.
21. Okay? So my dad has always been a man of faith. I mean, I've seen him exercise his faith. I've seen him believe. My dad always served, you know, very involved in church, very respected as a leader. So it was almost as if, I was a pastor's son.
Yeah.
That's how we were raised. I could never know how to say "politicata" in English, but anyways,
Preacher.
okay, son of a preacher, not like the lead pastor or anything, right? So, and I said to him, I said, when God told Abraham to move, do you think like he
Cared
like
about. Cared
any
about.
any of the stuff that
Yeah.
you're trying to play in your mind, and he was like, but God wouldn't ask you to do that because of your situation, your family. Like I'm like, did we forget that Abraham literally had to leave everything he had behind,
And everything he knew.
everything he knew,
Yeah.
everything he had, leave it behind on God's word,
Yeah.
not knowing where he was gonna go.
And a God that he doesn't know.
A God that he didn't know.
That
That
part.
part. Now, I was like, you raised me in the faith. I've never experienced God in that level, but here I am. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want to experience him that way.
Yeah.
And I said to him, and I remember I said to him, so if you're telling me if you sleep tonight, you go to sleep tonight, and God told you to pack up your bag and leave tomorrow and move, I'm like, what are you gonna do?
Same answer, I guess. God would never.
That was the funniest.
God knows better. He would
said
never.
God wouldn't do that to me.
Yeah.
I'm too old. I'm like, you forget how old
Abraham.
Abraham was?
Right.
This was literally the back and forth in my
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm like, I get it. I get it. It is a hard thing to
Swallow.
to
Yeah.
swallow right now. So I just wanted to let you guys know this is where we are. This is what we're planning. And because I didn't want, to tell you in the last minute. And then it went quiet.
Whew.
And my parents didn't
It
speak
went
to me.
quiet, not just
for a
in the
while
room. It went quiet.
in the house.
Oh,
Specifically my mom.
it
My
was
mom
hard.
didn't say one word to me for weeks.
It was hard.
And I get it. And I wasn't mad or anything because for her, it takes
It
a
takes
lot
time
of
for her
time
to
to process.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to reward you that time. Like, we're not going to talk about it. You know what you're supposed to know. And we're going to leave it at that until, and, that was that. And then funny enough, that passage, the story of Abraham would be
The story.
the story of how God wanted us to see the move. And I remember going back to my receipt book. It was all right. So let's take a step back. Once, so then, the fast came. Let's talk about the fast. So our church now does an annual fast. They do it in January to kick off the year, beginning of January for 21 days. It's supposed to be the Daniel fast. Like we have never done it before. At that point, I've never really fast like that. I've done like a day or a few hours, or a half day, I should say. So we decided to do the fast. We decided to do the fast because we were confused. We had no answers. And we wanted to know.
We wanted to focus so we can really hear what God
he
is
has
saying.
to say. Because, again, it's a big decision. So we decided to do the fast in January. And y'all, I'm not joking when I say this. You remember this? Every day in the fast, the Lord spoke. Mm-hmm. Either through our reading. And the sermons were weird because they were, and we kind of touch up on that. They were sermons from years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago that we had never heard. And this is how it would happen, right? So we would be watching a sermon and then the next sermon would just pop up. Mm-hmm. And then we would click on it. I would say we felt led to click on it, and we would. And every single one that we clicked on or felt, led to click on had something for us regarding the move.
There were clues.
Literally. And it's funny because there were some of them from people that
We don't listen to.
we don't listen to.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I started to really follow Pastor Darius.
Yeah.
Darius Daniels. That's my man. This man has helped me so much.
Yes.
Spoken to our situation in our lives so much. But one in particular was, and that was like at the end, almost the end of the fast. Because I have January 26th here.
So, is it the?
No, not yet. Actually,
Okay.
I need to find that one. Timing is everything.
Yeah.
I need to find.
Because I feel like I have listened to that one way earlier than that. But when I shared it with you, you never like it took you a hot minute to get to it.
Yeah.
So, but when you did, it was the right time. It was so good that I listened to it first. Then when you were listening to it again, I listened to it with you.
But also, how funny it was that that sermon was sent to you by your friend, which you don't
That
really speak to.
I had just got reconnected with. Yeah.
I need to find that. I need to find. Did that come before or after?
No, I feel like we.
Was that before the fast or after the fast?
I feel like it was a little bit before the fast.
Bear with us, yeah, because again, we don't plan our recording because we're like, Lord, this is our testimony. This is why you take the wheel. Whatever we forget, remind us. And there you go. Day 3 of the fast. Timing is everything. That was by T.D. Jakes. Now, if y'all know me,
All right, now, calm down.
you guys know, for those who know me, I can't listen to T.D. Jakes. I can't. It's too motivational for me. It's not really preaching or anything. It's like motivational speech. I'm just saying that's how I feel about it. That's why I could never listen to him.
That's how he feels, guys.
We're being transparent,
being
yeah?
honest, yes.
I ain't gonna sugarcoat nothing. I'm not saying anything about, bad about him, but I'm saying that's how I always felt. Always like motivational speaking, and I could never do it, so I never did it. But you sent me that sermon from your friend,
Yes.
and that was a 2-hour sermon.
And so I felt the same way too. Like it's not someone that I normally listen to. So when my friend shared it with me, and she was like, I don't usually listen to him, but when, I got that sermon, I was debating if I should watch it or not. But the Lord said, don't you believe that I can use about anyone to like bring my word, forth?
Yep.
So I'm like, okay. So when she shared it with me, I was like, I'll give it a try. I didn't listen to it the same day, but I finally got to it, and it was a long one, but I stuck with it. I watched the whole thing, and then I'm like, wow, that really speaks to what we're going through. That's
2
why I
hours.
shared it with her. Yeah.
2 hours and some change.
Yeah.
And I was like, the
was
first time I
long.
was like, do
Yeah.
I really have to sit in? But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it just because this whole time, the way the sermons kept coming randomly, I was like, I'll be a fool
Not to, yeah.
not to,
Yeah.
right? So I decided to listen to it, and I took a few notes. But that wasn't really the one that did it for me. But this was so good as far as like understanding God's timing, and especially for us, right? So, I was like, I really need to listen to that, and I believe I listened to it twice.
I think so. I think you did one
Yep.
without me, and then we did one together. Yeah.
Because I took notes by myself, and then one so we could sit and really listen to what God was trying to say to both of us. And I think in that sermon, that sermon also was a trigger for a prayer that I prayed. And here's some of my notes that I wrote down. there's a an Ecclesiastes, right? There's a time to plant, a time to pluck up. That was part of the sermon. Ask God when is the time to do either or, right? You can't have a new season. Now listen to this. You can't have a new season until you're willing to say goodbye to the season you had. The art, and I put in parentheses, the art of letting go, the spirit of release. And for us at that in that point in time, that was important for us because we weren't willing to give up everything we had where we were to go to the unknown. And I think also that was when the teaching of understanding seasons really kicked
Yeah.
in for us.
Yeah.
Understanding everything in your life is a season. Your job that you have right now could be a season. A relationship could be a season. A friendship could be a season. You know what I mean? Whatever. But once you understand that, then you understand there is more to come, or there is better after whatever. You know, never try to hold on to something thinking that's it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're stubborn with your thoughts, you'll delay your next season. God is teaching us that timing is everything, that you can't be fruitful out of season.
There we go.
And I wrote something and I circled it. And I said, God, teach me to know my season and help me to know my timing. And then later on, and I remember, so at that point, like we said, we planned to move. We planned to move after the wedding, so that would have been after July. Okay? And so 3 days before the fast ended, I remember a few days before I was listening to the podcast, Tim Ross. And that was an episode where he was talking about when the Lord asked him to leave Dallas. No,
No.
LA,
To leave.
LA,
Okay.
to move to Dallas.
Okay.
When they got the calling to move, they felt convicted that the Lord told them to move. And him and his wife, they were talking about it, right? And they were, they said yes and stuff like that. And the wife told him, we never asked God
For a timing.
for timing.
Or timeline, whatever. Yeah.
And most of us can relate. And me, I have this thing, y'all. If God tells me to do something, I want to do it right
He's
away.
running with it. Yep.
I'm like, I don't want to waste no time.
Yep. He wants to do it yesterday.
This is a command. I want to get it done.
Yep. That's you.
But in that moment, once I heard that, and I think I was at work when I heard that message, when I heard that podcast, and I remember, I'm like, we never asked God when we should move. We just said we're moving after the wedding. So I remember getting home and then waiting for my wife to get home. And as soon as she walked in the door, I was like, babe. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing is wrong. But we haven't asked God when.
Yeah.
She's like, when what? When to move? She's like, oh, yeah, we did it. I'm like, this is what I was listening to, and blah, 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 blah. And we're like, at that moment, we're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. There's 3 days left in the fast.
Yeah.
For the next 3 days, we're going to go into prayer, and we're going to ask God, when do you want us to move? And we're like, okay. So from that day on, in the next 3 days, we just literally prayed nothing about nothing else but when.
Yeah.
Y'all, I kid you not.
That was a special 3 days.
That was a special 3 days. And the first day, not much really as far as like, I think it was the second day. I think it was the second day. When did the fast end? You remember?
January 29th.
So it was 3 days before. Since you said the fast ended on the 29th, so on the 26th, I remember I was at work, and I remember right after we had the conversation, we should pray about it, and we were praying. So it was the first day of the prayer. I thought it was like the second day, but it was the first day. And I remember I was at work, and it was later in the evening, probably like six. No, no. So it was in the afternoon, probably like around like 4 maybe, because the store closed at 6. And I remember I was sitting with my friend, so Kira, and I remember you texted me. You remember this?
Did that happen on the second day?
Yes, because it was that same day I prayed that prayer.
But okay, so I texted you. I feel like I texted you earlier than that because I was off. I was home.
You earlier in the day. You texted
Yeah.
me. Yes, but I'm saying you texted me and said
Because it was while I was praying.
yes. So you said the text said,
What if the
it's
time?
sooner?
Yeah.
That was literally the text. What if it's sooner?
You know when like you have a thought that comes to your mind and it feels like a gut punch.
Yep.
You know, like that's what it felt like. Like something hit me in the gut. Boom. Like with the thought.
Yeah.
Like what if it's sooner? And I started panicking. Like my heart couldn't take it. I'm like, sooner when? What does that mean? I was like, no, I need to text you.
And I got the text, and I was like, what is she talking about?
I don't know what I was talking about.
And I texted back and I said, what if sooner what? And you were like, what if we're supposed to move sooner?
Yeah.
And I remember my reaction. I was like, first of all, let's not put that into the universe.
Yeah.
You remember this?
His famous saying.
I was like, let's not say that, because we're nowhere near ready after losing everything. Like we just started to save again. What do you mean if it's sooner? Let's not do that.
We're at the end of January. By the
Okay.
way.
And I was like, all right. I'm like, you know what? The only thing I can do with that information is to pray on it. And I remember telling my friend right there and there, I said, I'll be right back. She said, where you going? I'm like, I'm going to the bathroom. I need to go do something. And it wasn't one of those long prayers because I was at work. Okay? I was at work. I guess this is where, again, when it comes to prayer, for any of you guys who was watching or who's been struggling with your prayer time or thinking that it has to be formal, it doesn't have to be formal.
It doesn't always have to.
Always, right? And it doesn't always have to be long. And I was reading, actually, funny enough, either yesterday or today, one of my prayer was saying how we should, like we shouldn't mess around in our prayers when it comes to God. Be specific and come with exactly what you want to say. It says you can come boldly in front of the throne. That's what it says, right? And that reminded me, as I'm saying that was my reading either earlier or yesterday. But and also reminds me of who was it, Nehemiah?
Yeah. Before the king.
The king.
Quick prayer.
The king said, what do you want?
Yep.
He didn't know what to say. He wasn't prepared for that. But that prayer was so quick that God downloaded everything that he needed to say in that moment to get his blessings.
Yeah.
And in the bathroom, I was like, Lord, I don't know what this text is. Whatever it is, we ain't ready for it. But I need you to speak to me and tell me if this is you. If you're trying to communicate to us after we said we were going to pray about when, if you're trying to communicate to us that you want us to move sooner, you need to speak to me now, like right now. And then I left the bathroom, went back on the self floor. And I am not joking, you guys. And in the words of my adopted daughter, this was a little spooky. I sat down on the counter and I opened my notebook and I took my phone and and it's like I felt like the Holy Spirit just said, go on YouTube. Tap on the app on YouTube. The first message that came on.
God knows when.
God knows when. I was like, this can't be.
Yeah.
I was like, this cannot be. God knows when. By whom?
Favorite.
TDJs. I was like, and it's funny because now thinking about it, if I was in my flesh,
Oh yeah.
I would have ignored that.
Absolutely.
Just because once I see it,
Because
I'm like,
yeah,
I can't. I'm not watching that. But the Holy Spirit led me there. And I said, all right. So I played the message. 30 minutes,
into it.
25, 30 minutes into the message. I'm like, yo,
Nothing.
what am I doing? I'm like, this is a coincidence. At that point, that's what I'm saying to myself.
Mm-hmm.
But something else was telling me, just keep watching.
Yeah.
Just keep watching. And I kept watching. Once I kept watching, I remember there's a part in the sermon, he was talking about something. I can't even remember what he was talking about. But what I do remember is we picked July to move.
Yeah.
And in that sermon, he was talking about something and he asked a question.
Is it going to be?
And the question had 2 months. The month that we picked and the month that we didn't know about. Now, think about it for a second, because this was my thought process once I heard that. Because I was like, yo, this is freaky. I was like, out of 12 months in the year, and also a sermon that was preached years ago, and that moment, what are the likelihood that the 2 months that he talked about is the month that we picked and the month that we had no idea was going to be our answer? And whatever he was talking about, he said, literally, is it March or is it July?
Yeah.
Yo, I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna see if I can find a way to zoom this. I literally put March or July, 3 question mark, and I circled it.
Meanwhile, I'm going crazy in my spirit. Like we can't do this.
And then on the bottom, I put a little arrow, and I put 30th question mark, reference to Pastor John Gray, because he had said something in the December Christmas service that I felt was something for us, but I had no idea what that meant.
Stay tuned. And I think you will watch that sermon too.
Oh yeah.
That same day.
Oh yeah.
Because you were going insane.
Oh yeah. And I remember, and I was giving my friend a ride home, and I was like, "Yo, you would never believe what just happened." She was like, because I told her about your text. And then she was like, well, maybe it's, that's God trying to tell you, you guys got to move sooner. Mm-hmm. And I told her the same thing. Don't be putting that out in the universe. And then on the way home, so I told her, because, she just saw me went to the bathroom and she didn't know. And I was like, grab my notebook. See what I'm like, you'd never believe what just happened. I prayed that prayer. This is literally the message the Lord sent me to watch. She's like, no way. I was like, look. And I was driving, like we're literally flipping the pages. And I said, I'm going to send you a full picture when I get home. Because we got to the train station, I was dropping her off. And I was like, yo, God knows when. That's the sermon. And guess what? And I told her, I said, in the sermon, there was 2 months that was mentioned. She was like, ooh, spooky. And I was like, all right. And then I went home. I didn't even tell you about it. Remember? Because we
No.
said we weren't going to reveal to each other until the end of the fast.
Yeah.
You go pray, I go pray, and see what we got out of it.
Yeah. And that same night, I, like close to the morning, I had a dream. I saw that I was in the church. Well, the first dream that I had, I saw that I was in the church testifying. And I kept saying 333, 333. I didn't know why I was saying that. But the close to the morning that same night, I had another dream. Like I was literally asking, like I was literally talking to God. And I said, but God, when? You know, when your children, when you tell them something and they can't wait and they keep asking you, Mommy, when are we going to go out? When? Like I could hear me like asking like a little child. I was like, but God, when? And I heard the voices the 30th. And I woke up. So I had a first dream where I was testifying and I kept saying 333, 333. And then the second dream, I got the 30th. I just don't know what 30th. Meanwhile, this is happening and I have no idea. So it was like a puzzle in my head, a puzzle in his head, but we're going to put it together and figure it out.
Spooky. And like literally, this is literally all I wrote. That's because again, the first 30 minutes, I was like, yo, what am I listening to? Mm-hmm. That's it. This is what I got. Once this is that little part of when he mentioned the month, and that was it. Like barely like one paragraph. That's it. And then for the rest of, the 3 days, there are other things I was, that day and other days I was watching. Listen to the next sermon I listened to. Again, by whom? I was so like baffled by what happened. And I was like, yo, I need to understand. Did I really hear that right? The next sermon, recognizing God's answer. Those are not things I looked for.
Yeah.
Those are not sermons that I searched for. Honest to God. Every sermon we were watching was just popping up randomly. I've never experienced that in my life.
Yep.
Everything that we prayed for, the answer was in a sermon that just popped out of nowhere.
Yep.
Recognizing God's answer. And there's a few things I kind of underlined. God doesn't give us details because we must walk by faith and not by sight. Mm-hmm. To some degree, God's answer don't often look like our prayers.
Mic drop. This wasn't for us. This wasn't like, oh, there goes the answer. Yay. No, we were freaking out. What do you mean sooner?
Because it was January. Remember this. It was end of January at this point. January 26th is when I got that answer. And now we found out that we have to move in March.
Like we had a plan.
We had no plan for March. But
no,
July.
but like July is when
6 months away.
We would have enough, like
7 months away.
Would have enough time to find a house. Would have enough time to save up a little bit more. Would have enough time to do what we need to do. Or what we thought we needed to do.
What we thought we needed to do.
And God is like, bam. Walk by faith, sis.
We need to learn how to surrender our thoughts to God. And this is when he started to really shift everything. Surrender what we had in mind. Surrender what we had planned. Talking about wanting to move in July. Surrender what we had planned. Surrender how we thought it would turn out.
Like, okay.
All this underlined. Underlined.
God is like, I know once I tell them they're moving sooner, like less than 2 months, they're gonna freak out. Let me like back it up. Let me give them something.
And then he said in the sermon, God answers can't be cognitive because we don't have a predetermined picture in our minds of what he'll do in our lives. We literally have no point of reference.
Nope.
Because if it's cognitive, it can't be divined. If it's something that you've already pictured, if it's something you already know, it's not divine. It's not from him.
I mean, our July plan was pictured perfect.
Perfect, bro. We have January to July. We save.
And I was like, I'm gonna get every overtime
Bro,
that I can
we
get.
had a plan.
We're gonna, and I told my job, try to find someone because by
By July,
I'm moving. I'm not gonna be here.
same,
Now we gotta go back and tell them.
same. I told my boss, and I told the assistant manager at the time. I was like, July, because we talk about it. You'd always ask, and sometimes you'd think, I was joking when I said I was moving, and I said July. Keep on walking with God, and He will show you. You will not recognize what He's about to do because you have never seen something like it, passed through something like it, or experienced something like it. All underlined. All underlined. If you can put up with the trauma of uncertainty, this is literally what we're going through.
It was traumatic.
If you can put up with the trauma of uncertainty, then He will show you. I literally underlined the amount of time that phrase came up. You may not understand it right now, and that's okay because He will show you. You may not see or feel God's hand on whatever situation, project you have going on right now.
You know what comes next. He'll show you. Man.
When it's time to know, we'll know. When it's time for us to see, we will see. When it's time for us to understand, we'll understand. Until we need to walk by faith and not by sight. And another thing circled. This is literally what was happening. Again, it says, when your mind starts questioning where God has lead you, don't let it talk you back to where you've already been because it's not cognitive, it's supernatural. And I wrote, God will bring me and my family to a place where we can be fruitful. He will show us. And I circled it.
All this time, he doesn't know. Because we had decided whatever date that God gave him, let him give it to me. And we'll confirm, we'll, have like a reveal at the end of the fast. So he doesn't know what I have. I don't know what he has. How crazy is that? This can't be no coincidence. Anyways.
Oh my God. Now I'm just literally. Oh, here's something that's familiar. God will strip us from everyone and everything we've been leaning on until we don't have nobody else to trust but Him. And you know what comes next? He will show us.
I am so grateful that God always kind of give you a hint of what you're gonna go through, what it's gonna look like. He doesn't give you the full details or the full picture, but he somehow like he would always like kind of let you know, all right, where you're going, you can't take anybody with you, you know that. Okay, where
Lot.
you're going, where you're going, you know, this is gonna happen, or that is gonna happen, or this is not gonna happen. Like he kind of like prepares you. So when you get there, you're not freaking out about everything. Because not knowing where you're going or not knowing the full picture is already like, for us human, we like to figure things out. We like to know what we're getting ourselves into, you know? And that's not faith. You can't always know where God is going to lead you. That's not faith.
Yeah.
So it was a good, what would I say, like class or lesson, or I don't know, like schooling, you know, because like I said, I like to know where I'm going.
We all do.
For the same reason why I see people do like surprise birth, like gender, like they don't want to know what they're having. I need to know.
Yeah, we're not one of those people.
I
But
gotta know what
while
I'm
you're
getting
talking
myself
about
into.
faith, while you just mentioned that, and I think that's something, again, that's something he was working in us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because after I wrote down, God will bring me and my
Mm-hmm.
family to a place where we can be fruitful. Again, he'll show us.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote, God is fixing something in us. And until he gets it fixed, we won't understand it, but we got to trust it. And guess what comes after that? He will
He
show
will
us.
show us. For this episode, everything we say, you might as well just say,
I think that's gonna be
He
the
will
name of
show
the
you.
episode. He'll show us.
yeah.
Or something along the
Or
lines.
he will show you. I don't know.
Something along the lines.
Yeah.
Because the amount of time I wrote that and underlined it, insane.
Yeah.
But this is literally what was happening after we prayed that prayer and got that answer. And again, I got my answer, but we decided we weren't going to reveal to each other after the fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got your answer. And then obviously didn't tell me either.
And we were like, if I got a different answer than what he has,
Then
then
we
we
know
know
that text you sent
that we know.
that freaked me out
We know I was
was
in-
from you.
we know
that
I
you
was-
were drunk
I was in
or
the
something.
flesh. We know I was in the flesh.
And to be honest, y'all, a part of me was hoping.
He was hoping I was in the flesh.
Yeah, because I'm like, yo, it's January. What do you end of January? It was January 26th. There was 3 days left before the fast, so we would have had 2 months.
Bro,
2 months. February, which is a short month, and then March.
when that thought hit me, my whole body, you know, when you're like, you feel like you're like your
You went numb?
muscles, yeah, like your body's going numb. Like that's what it felt like. And like I fell into this like anxious thing. Like my whole body was just like shaking on the inside. I'm like, if that's true, what are we gonna do?
And then you had the
What?
nerve to text
What
me.
are
while I
we
was at
going to?
work.
I couldn't keep it to myself. I just couldn't keep it to myself. I'm like, you know what? Let me prepare him, just in case that's like the Lord telling me something.
But it was good because I would have never prayed that prayer. I would have never prayed that prayer and would never understand what that thought meant.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it.
Someone reminded us that, in every season that we enter, we need to always share things with each other.
Yep.
Whether it's a dream or whether it's a thought, whatever it is, share it with each other.
now we know
were doing that before, but we didn't know why. But it is something that God really wants us to do.
Yeah.
Because he has a way of just like saying something to him and confirm it with me, or saying something with me and confirm it
Always.
with him.
Always.
Like that's we're like, okay, God, that's how we know it's
Always.
you. Yeah.
Always. And I'm so grateful for that because, again, a few days ago we were having that conversation. Once you start walking with God and there's a way he talks to you, there's a way he tells you things or do things with you, it's kind of hard to misinterpret a message or a revelation or, because you know his voice by what you've experienced. And that's how I go about everything, now in my life. If I pray about something or if I have a dream or if I have a thought, whatever, I know exactly how he speaks to me and I know that's you. and I'll pray about it, and it's always confirmed. Or even when it's not confirmed, I'm like, you know what? I'd rather do it than be wrong than not to do it and miss out on whatever that you were trying to get to me. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think we're gonna. This is too good. This is gonna be like a part 2. I don't know, part 3, because it kind of escalated from
It went
and a
crazy.
lot happened.
It went crazy from there.
And we
but
cannot.
it went good from there
We
too.
cannot
Like crazy
fit
good.
that into one episode.
Crazy good.
Crazy good. So we're gonna stop right there.
Yeah.
So we just want to thank y'all once
Yes.
again.
Really, friends. Thank you for hanging out.
This
with
is
us.
great for me. I hope it's the same for you, because it's so refreshing.
Yes.
It's so refreshing to see how he's been working and what he's been doing. And like, I'm like, yo, now, whatever we're going through right now in this season, I'm like, yo,
This
all
is
this
a
promise,
reminder.
everything
Yeah.
was here.
Yeah.
If the same faith that brought us here, we gotta have the same faith to keep going.
Yeah.
And we just can't give up. So don't give up. If you're believing for something and you have faith for something, you haven't seen it yet, God is not done with you yet.
This is something the
He will
Holy
show you.
Spirit just reminded me of. It's good sometimes to testify to yourself about what the Lord has done.
Ooh.
Especially when you're going through a hard season or through a hard
Yes.
time. Go back and tell your soul, I've been there before, or I've been through something hard before, and this is what God has done.
Yep.
Testify to yourself.
And if he's done it before,
He can do it again.
He can do it again.
Oof, I felt that. I really felt that.
thank you, Holy Spirit.
Wow, that
was
is
good.
something we need to practice this week. You know,
Just look at yourself in the mirror and speak to your
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Speak to your situation.
yeah,
Speak to your obstacles. Speak to your thoughts. Because the devil is still trying, plant things in there.
go back to when
But go
he did
back
it.
and
tell your soul.
Testify to yourself.
Yes.
Yo, this is testimony and blessings. And we're just excited. As you can see, like, listen, this for us is...
That's just
That's just the way we are.
even when we're like talking about God, just like
We
the
get
two
excited.
of us, we get so excited and we just
We've seen too much,
We
yo. We've
just
seen
do
too much. We've experienced too much.
Yeah.
And we just hope that it is a blessing to y'all. We hope that it encourages you, and we hope that you're experiencing God the way we are, the way we have, and your testimony is a blessing for someone else.
Yeah.
Again, we encourage you to share with us in the comments, and we'll read your testimony. And so, because again, the whole point is, we hope that our testimony is faith building for somebody else. So your testimony can be faith building for somebody else. So thank you, y'all. This has been great. We enjoy having y'all. Again, please subscribe to our channel. Share with someone that may be going through something and may need to hear a word of encouragement.
yes.
And we hope to see you guys next time and continue this roller coaster and exciting journey that we've
with
been
us.
on. So we love you guys. We pray that the Lord blesses you guys and keep you.
Yes.
And we hope to see you guys soon. So peace. Hey guys, if you're watching and if you're listening to Testimony and Blessing Podcast, please subscribe, hit the notification button to make sure you never miss anything, and please share our videos to someone that may benefit from it. We really appreciate you. We thank you for your time. I thank you for following us. We love you. Peace.